You've been told hard work is the key to success. But what if I told you that's only half the truth? Without desire, you're lost. Without faith, you're weak. Without action, you're nothing. In this video, we're unlocking the real formula behind all lasting success. Not theories, not shortcuts. Just the timeless truths: desire that burns, faith that moves, and action that delivers. These aren't just words. They're your master key to the life you've been dreaming of. Every great achievement begins in the invisible realm of desire, long before a skyscraper touches the clouds, before a business earns its first dollar, or before a life is transformed. There is desire, deep, clear, unwavering, not a passing interest or a hopeful wish, but a burning inner drive that refuses to be silenced. That's the starting point. That is the genesis of all meaningful change. Desire, in its purest form, is the spiritual seed of success. It begins as a thought, but unlike ordinary thoughts, it lingers. It possesses emotional charge. It nags at your peace until you do something about it. The difference between the masses who merely survive and the rare few who reach to greatness lies in how deeply they cultivate their desires. You see, everyone wants something, but wanting is not desiring. Wanting is casual, desiring is intense. When Napoleon Hill said, "Desire backed by faith knows no such word as impossible," he was pointing to a law, a psychological principle. You cannot rise above your dominant desire. It becomes the lens through which you see life. It shapes your focus, your emotions, your identity. Desire, if strong enough, will override fear. It will pull you through uncertainty, through poverty, through ridicule. It becomes a magnet for ideas, people, and resources because it changes how you think, speak, and act. In a very real sense, it reprograms your mind. But here's where most people falter. They never give their desire definition. They feel a vague sense of wanting more success, more freedom, more happiness. But they never crystallize it. They never write it down. They never sit in silence and ask, what do I truly want? What am I willing to sacrifice for? What am I willing to become in order to have it? That's where greatness is born, not in comfort, not in scrolling endlessly through inspiration, but in decision, a moment of quiet resolve. When you take the formless and give it shape, the moment you define your desire, you give birth to destiny. Desire becomes a creative force when it is specific. If your mind doesn't know exactly what to aim for, it cannot recruit the subconscious to help you get there. Clarity is power. A man who knows he wants to become the greatest in his field begins to see opportunities others overlook. A woman who decides she will build an empire starts to interpret setbacks not as rejection, but redirection. Their minds, fueled by strong desire, filter life differently. And that's where the law of attraction truly begins its work. Not in vague visualization or passive hope, but in the emotional obsession. With a goal so vivid it occupies your mind day and night, you begin to think in harmony with what you want. That's when the world around you starts to shift, not magically, but magnetically. Now here's the truth. Most overlooked desire must be fed. You can't decide today and forget tomorrow. Just as a fire needs fuel, desire needs reinforcement. You feed it through repetition, reading your goals, speaking your vision, surrounding yourself with people who breathe ambition. You feed it by removing the noise, the doubters, the distractions, the small talk that shrinks your spirit. You feed it by reminding yourself why you must achieve it. Because when your why is clear, your how finds its way. Many will say, I don't know what I desire. And that may be true for now, but the question isn't whether you feel it. The question is whether you've trained yourself to listen. Most people have buried their desire under years of self-doubt, under the opinions of others, under the failures that made them fearful. But it's still there. It just needs to be uncovered. Through reflection, through solitude, through the courage to admit what you really want, even if it scares you. And once that desire is uncovered, once it's named and owned and claimed, that's when the tide begins to turn. That's when you feel the internal shift. The same world, but a new you, because now you're no longer drifting. You're aiming, you're no longer hoping, you're believing. And more than anything, you're ready to act. Remember this: no one was ever lifted to greatness by accident. It was desire. The kind that burns that started the engine. And if you haven't found it yet, it means you haven't gone deep enough to go deeper. It's there waiting for you to listen. Because success is never a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice, and choice begins the moment you declare what you truly desire. Once a desire has been firmly planted, there is a next crucial element that must follow: faith. Without it, desire remains a wish. With it, desire becomes a command to the universe. Faith in the context of personal achievement is not just spiritual belief, it is psychological conviction. It is the emotionalized certainty that what you seek is not only possible, it is inevitable. Let's be clear. When Napoleon Hill spoke of faith, he wasn't referring solely to religious doctrine. He was referring to a creative force within the mind, a form of autosuggestion, the ability to condition yourself to believe so completely in your goal that your thoughts, emotions, and actions begin to operate as if it is already done. Think about it. Everything you've ever achieved started with belief, and everything you failed to pursue was stopped by doubt. Faith is what separates those who move forward in the face of obstacles from those who retreat in the comfort of excuses. It is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, between the world as it is and the world as it could be. But faith does not emerge by accident. It is developed deliberately, repeatedly. You build it the same way you strengthen a muscle, through repetition, exposure, and emotional focus. When you repeat your goals out loud, when you visualize your success clearly, when you speak and act in alignment with your vision, you are feeding faith. You are reshaping your internal blueprint. You'll emphasize the power of autosuggestion because the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. If you feed it doubt, it will find ways to sabotage your efforts. If you feed it belief, it will find ways to bring your vision to life. Your subconscious is always working. The question is, whose orders is it following? Many people confuse faith with hope, but hope is passive. Faith is active. Hope waits. Faith initiates. Faith is expressed through decision, through boldness, through action that says, I believe this will work, and if it doesn't, I will find another way. That's the faith of every great innovator, every self-made success, every leader who built something from nothing. They didn't know exactly how, but they knew it could be done. And that was enough to start. And yes, faith will be tested. That's part of the journey. You will encounter moments where the evidence contradicts your vision. Where the bank account is empty, the critics are loud, and the results are slow. Those are the moments that separate the amateurs from the achievers, because anyone can believe when it's easy, but only those with real faith continue when nothing outside of them says they should. That's the paradox of success. The results don't come first, the belief does. And once you believe at a deep enough level, your behavior changes. You approach the work differently. You speak differently. You see opportunity where others see chaos, and eventually the outer world begins to mirror the inner one. There's also a powerful psychological mechanism at play here: the self-fulfilling prophecy. What you believe about yourself becomes the filter through which you interpret events. If you believe you're destined to win, even your failures become lessons. If you believe you're unlucky or not good enough, even your victories feel temporary. Faith reshapes how you experience reality, not just spiritually, but neurologically. This is why guarding your faith is non-negotiable. You cannot allow doubt, fear, and negativity to take root in your mind unchecked. You must protect your belief like a flame in the wind. Surround yourself with voices that reinforce your vision. Eliminate the internal dialogue that questions your worth. Replace it with affirmations, with reminders, with the daily practice of gratitude and vision setting. And here's something that might surprise you. You don't need overwhelming, perfect faith. You just need enough faith to begin, because faith compounds. The moment you act in belief, you create results. And those results reinforce your belief. It's a cycle, a self-strengthening system. One small act of faith can ignite momentum that becomes unstoppable over time. So if you're waiting for a sign to start, understand this: faith doesn't follow evidence, it creates it. You won't feel fully ready. You won't have every answer. But if the desire is there, strong, defined, alive, then your only job is to believe it is possible and act like it already belongs to you. Because in the end, what you believe about your potential shapes the world you will experience. Faith is not just a bridge, it is a choice. And when you choose to believe in yourself and your vision, you activate the greatest force of transformation known to man. Act on that belief, and reality will bend to match it. So now we've arrived at the point where most people hesitate, the moment where thought must become movement, where the idea, now infused with desire and strengthened by faith, demands physical expression. This is where dreams either begin to materialize or dissolve into fantasy. The bridge from vision to results is action. Without it, all else is mental theater. Action is the great translator. It turns invisible thought into visible reality. You can meditate on your goals, visualize them with perfect clarity, and affirm them every morning. But until you do something, until you move with purpose, nothing changes. The world does not respond to intention, it responds to initiative. This truth may sound harsh, but it is deeply liberating. It means you don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need perfection, you only need motion. Even imperfect action will teach you more than perfect contemplation ever could, because once you begin, you enter a new dimension of learning, one where reality gives you feedback, sharpens your skill, reveals your blind spots, and unlocks doors you didn't even know were there. Think of every breakthrough in history, every invention, every movement, every company that reshaped an industry. They didn't happen because someone merely thought hard enough. They happened because someone got up and did something, often before they felt ready. The difference between the thinker and the achiever is not intellect, it's execution. Now, action isn't just about effort, it's about intelligent effort. It requires decisiveness. Far too many people waste time waiting for the perfect plan, but the perfect plan is an illusion. You will never have absolute certainty. Action is about calculated risk, knowing enough to move forward, but having the courage to adapt as you go. It's like climbing a mountain in the fog. You may not see the peak, but you can see the next step taken. There is also a psychological transformation that happens through action. When you act, you signal to your subconscious that you are serious, that this goal matters. You shift from being a passive observer of your life to the active author of it. This shift, though invisible, is profound because your subconscious begins to align your energy, your habits, and even your perception with the path ahead. Keel understood that the world bends for those who move. He wrote, action is the real measure of intelligence. Why? Because action tests what you believe. IT separates talk from truth. Many will say they want to succeed. Few will endure the discomfort that action demands: the early mornings, the late nights, the rejections, the revisions. But those who do, they discover something extraordinary: momentum. Momentum is what turns effort into rhythm. It reduces resistance, it quiets doubt. The first steps are the hardest because you're pushing against inertia, but once you commit, once you build consistency, your actions begin to feed on themselves. You start to see progress, even if small, and progress creates motivation. It creates evidence that your dream is not a fantasy, it is a goal in motion. And don't misunderstand. Failure will be part of the process, but failure is not the enemy. Inaction is failure. It gives you data, it gives you experience, it gives you the raw material from which success is built. Every misstep is feedback, not a verdict. The only way to learn what works is to first learn what doesn't. Action gives you both. So the question is no longer what do I want, or do I believe in it? The question now becomes, what am I doing today that moves me closer? Because no matter how ambitious the vision or how deep the belief, only through action does life begin to rearrange itself in your favor. You see, the universe respects motion, nature rewards what moves. Rivers cut through mountains not by strength, but by persistence. Seeds become forests, not in theory, but through the relentless process of growth. In humans, we shape our destinies not by what we intend, but by what we execute. So if you have a goal, act. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the mood to strike. Begin now. Begin small if you must, but begin. Because thought is the blueprint, faith is the fuel, but action is the builder. And remember this: the gap between where you are and where you want to be will never close by thinking harder, only by moving forward. Once you've acted, you're not done. In fact, you've only just begun. Action may ignite the fire, but consistency keeps it burning. You see, success isn't a product of one bold move. It's the result of repeated, sustained effort applied over time, even when the mood fades and the results lag behind. That's the truth most people overlook. They expect an explosion from a single spark, but the reality is more like water, carving through rock, slow, persistent, and utterly unstoppable. Consistency doesn't shout, it whispers, it doesn't dazzle in the moment, but it stuns over time. It is the silent force that multiplies your efforts behind the scenes. And ironically, because it works invisibly at first, most people abandon it before they witness its power. They want visible progress now. And when it doesn't arrive fast enough, they pivot, quit, or start over, mistaking delay for denial. But what they're really abandoning is compounding. Let's take a moment to talk about that. The compound effect is one of the most powerful forces in both nature and human achievement, whether it's saving money, developing a skill, building a business, or mastering your mind. The secret is the same. Small disciplined actions repeated daily create exponential returns, but only when you remain faithful to the process long enough for momentum to catch up with your efforts. People often ask what separates those who succeed from those who don't. And while many things can be said, talent, opportunity, timing, the most common thread is consistency. The ability to keep showing up, to do what needs to be done when you don't feel like it. That's the moment when character is forged. That's the crucible where greatness is shaped. Not in the highlight reels, but in the quiet, unglamorous hours of repetition and restraint. Now, understand this: consistency is not about perfection. It's not about never missing a day or never making a mistake. It's about resilience, the ability to get back on course quickly when you drift. It's about trusting the process enough to recommit again and again, even when progress is invisible. Especially when progress is invisible, because that's when most quit. But those who continue, those who press on, unlock levels of mastery and fulfillment that are unreachable through occasional bursts of enthusiasm. Napoleon Hill said, "Persistence is to the character of man as carbon is to steel." Let that sink in. Consistency is what strengthens your inner structure. It refines your discipline, it sharpens your focus, and it builds trust both in yourself and from others. The world rewards those it can rely on, and nothing communicates reliability like consistency. Let's bring this to something personal. Think about any moment in your life when you achieved something meaningful. Was it sudden, or was it the result of showing up again and again, day after day, when no one was watching? That's the truth of it. Whether it's writing a book, building a career, improving your health, or creating a better version of yourself, it all comes down to what you do consistently, not occasionally. And here's the psychological beauty of consistency: it rewires your identity. Every time you follow through, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. Over time, those votes accumulate. You begin to believe in yourself, not because of external validation, but because your behavior now aligns with your vision. That's how confidence is built. That's how self-trust is earned. Through the discipline of consistency, you become the proof of your own potential. So if desire sets the goal, and faith keeps it alive, and action gets you started, it is consistency that carries you the distance. It is the silent multiplier, the invisible force that transforms mediocre effort into extraordinary impact. The edge that turns good intentions into lasting results. You don't need to be extreme, you need to be consistent. Because the small things you do daily will always outweigh the big things you do occasionally. And remember this: the person who shows up every day, focused, faithful, and forward moving, will always outperform the one who waits for the perfect day to begin. Every great achievement, every lasting legacy, every towering success has at its foundation one central element: purpose. You can have desire, you can summon faith, you can take action, and you can do it consistently. But if it's not rooted in a deeper purpose, it will eventually feel hollow. Your efforts may scatter, your energy may drain, and when difficulty comes, as it always does without purpose, your motivation will crumble. Purpose is what aligns everything else. It's the internal compass that directs your desire, strengthens your faith and fuels your consistency. It's not merely a goal, it is the reason behind the goal, the why, that makes the what meaningful. Purpose is what gives your life narrative cohesion. Without it, you're just reacting to life. With it, you are responding to a higher calling, one that gives your actions significance and direction. Too many people are exhausted not because they're doing too much, but because they're doing things that don't matter to them. They're chasing images of success handed to them by culture, family, or fear, not by their own convictions. They work, they strive, they achieve, and then they feel strangely empty. That's what happens when purpose is absent. The ladder was climbed, but it was leaning against the wrong wall. You must ask yourself, what deeply matters to me? What cause, what principle, what mission stirs something in my soul? The clearer your answer, the more powerful your path becomes, because purpose doesn't just energize you, it protects you. It helps you say no to distractions. It keeps you focused when others drift. And when you encounter setbacks, it gives you a reason to endure. Purpose doesn't eliminate pain, but it gives pain a reason. And when pain has meaning, it becomes fuel instead of friction. You see, human beings can endure almost anything if they believe it serves a purpose. History is full of people who survived the unthinkable, not because they were stronger or smarter, but because they held on to a sense of why. Viktor Frankl, a man who endured the horrors of concentration camps, said it best: he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. That truth applies just as much to the modern struggle for success as it does to survival. Your why gives you the courage to persist when the how becomes hard. Now let's take it deeper. Purpose not only sustains, it refines. It brings integrity to your actions. When you operate from purpose, your energy becomes more focused, your time becomes more valuable, and your standards rise. You no longer chase everything you pursue, only what aligns. That alignment creates coherence, and coherence is power. Scattered effort is weak, aligned effort is unstoppable. But here's the key: your purpose doesn't have to be massive or grandiose, it doesn't have to change the world overnight. It simply needs to be real, authentic, deeply personal. Your purpose might be to break a generational cycle, to prove to yourself that you can, to lift your family, to build something meaningful with your life. Whatever it is, let it be true, because truth resonates, and when your efforts resonate with your truth, a sense of inner harmony emerges. That harmony is where peace and productivity coexist. And once purpose is in place, everything else intensifies. Your desire gains clarity, your faith becomes unshakable, your action turns intentional, your consistency becomes devotion, and success as a result becomes not just likely but inevitable. Why? Because you're no longer pushing your life forward. You're being pulled by something deeper, something that transcends temporary difficulty or fleeting pleasure. Purpose is the glue. It binds your mind, your emotions, your will. It aligns your conscious efforts with your subconscious beliefs. And once those are unified, your potential is no longer theoretical, it becomes actual. So let me leave you with this. If you want to go fast, chase motivation, but if you want to go far, anchor yourself in purpose. Let your why be stronger than your obstacles. Let it speak louder than your fears. And let it be the silent power that turns ordinary effort into extraordinary achievement. You don't need to search the world for your purpose. You only need to stop running from it. It's already inside you, waiting for permission to lead.